troops?
Well, of course, first of all, I have enormous respect for John McCain. I served with him on the Armed Services Committee. I've worked with him on immigration and on health care. And he's a great American hero, great American patriot, to give more to this country than anyone could have asked. And I always take his views seriously, certainly on issues of national security. But on this issue, I differ with him. The question that you just asked is, are we really being more loyal to our troops, putting them in the midst of a civil war? That's effectively what's happening. That's what we see day after day. That is what our generals understand. Colin Powell has described it that way, General Nash. So many of the generals that have been over there have described that way. The American people never voted to authorize to send American troops in the midst of a civil war. They authorized it to look after weapons of mass destruction that weren't there, to look after the issues of the association, the operational association between Al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein. They looked at the violations of the UN resolution, but not a civil war. Today, we have a civil war. And the issue that is before the Senate of the United States, the issue that is before the American people, is the issue of whether we are going to have another surge. We've had 4 surges in Iraq. None of them have been successful. And I suggest that the President has the responsibility to demonstrate and prove to the American people that the surge will work. This is because the surges in the past, when we were in Najaf in 2004, were not successful. In Fallujah, they weren't successful. In Baghdad this last year, that haven't been successful. 2005, not successful. The burden is on the President to prove to the American people that will work, because this is an administration that has had failure after failure after failure after failure. And generally, in baseball, when you have 3 strikes and you're out, what is that with regards to this policy? We ought to require that the President of the United States come to the Congress and convince the Congress and the American people that the surge is the right way to go. And we ought to, that's what our legislation does, and said if the President should come to the Congress and be able to demonstrate to the Congress that we need the increased troops, the increased resources, with a new authorization. And if otherwise we have a cap on the number of troops that are there, and we don't have the resources to send additional troops there.
But the President has already begun to send troops to Iraq. Nancy Pelosi, the new speaker, said, quote, "The President knows that because the troops are in harm's way, that we won't cut off the resources. That's why he's moving so quickly to put them in harm's way." You agree with her?
Well, first of all, Nancy Pelosi's had an extraordinary week. She has just been a spectacular speaker with all of the actions that have been taken with the increase in the minimum wage and stem cell research.
But is she right about the President?
She is right about the President, the fact that the President has taken 2 months to make his judgment decision, hasn't he? He has taken from the time of the election till just a week ago to make the judgment decision about the surge. It does seem that the Congress ought to be able to have 2 weeks to make a judgment on this. Now, the facts remain that these troops are going to be phased in over a period of time. If we are able to take action before the end of this month, there is no issue which is more important to the American people than the issue of war and peace, the issue of Iraq. We ought to have that on the agenda in the House of Representatives, on the Senate. We ought to debate these issues. And I think we will see at the end of that time that there is going to be opposition to the surge. That opposition was initially reflected, as you pointed out earlier in the program, by the generals themselves. There's increasing opposition by the Republicans. And I must say, if we have a president that is going to effectively defy the American people, going to defy the generals, defy the majority of the Congress of the United States in Republicans and Democrats, then we, I think, have a responsibility to end the funding for that for the war.
Cut off the funding.
If that is going